All right, you've all seen the picture, or this, maybe some of you have even seen the statue out at Rockefeller Center of this guy holding the world upon his shoulders. And maybe you walked by and you thought, man, I feel his pain. Been there, done that, or maybe doing that right now. And that's the Greek god Atlas. And Atlas, we have our Atlas maps. Where does that come from? It comes from him. Because Atlas is the one who's holding the world on his shoulders. Now, why is Atlas holding the world on his shoulders? I mean, is he just bored and decides he's going to do this for the rest of eternity? Well, actually, this is punishment to Atlas. Atlas declares war, goes to war as a titan with the Olympians, and Zeus would have nothing of it. And so his punishment by Zeus is to hold the world, or the spirits of the heavens, on his shoulders to lift them up. And so Atlas then is stuck with this for all eternity. Now, there was at least one story in Greek mythology that tells us that Atlas actually had the opportunity to get out from under this weight. Hercules was commanded to go and to pick these golden apples, and part of his 12, whatever they called them, stories of his strength. And Hercules didn't want to do it. And you can't blame him if it was going to be quite the task. So Hercules has this idea. So he goes and he tells Atlas, listen, Atlas, I'm going to give you a break, man. I'm supposed to go pick these 12 apples and I'm not feeling it. I would rather hold up the world. So why don't I just hold the world for you? You can get out from underneath that weight and just go pick some apples. Well, Atlas thought this was a great deal. So Atlas took the deal and he went and he picked those apples. Well, as you can imagine, on coming back, Atlas is thinking, no more, I'm done. I'm out from under the weight of the world. The weight of the world is now off my shoulders and I'm not going back under it. And Hercules knows he's got an issue, so he's like, I tell you what, Atlas, why don't you just hold the world for a little bit? I'll continue to hold it for you. But I need to find some cushions because it's just hit me in the back the wrong way. And let me go find some cushions. I'll be back and you can take the apples for me. Atlas thought, okay, I can do that. So Atlas puts the weight of the world back upon his shoulders. Hercules says sayonara and he's gone. And Atlas thought, oh man, now I've got the weight of the world back on my shoulders. It's a funny story in Greek mythology, and we think, no, Atlas, don't do it. But how many of us have actually done the exact same thing? We're walking around with the weight of the world on our shoulders, and God gives us an opportunity to get out from under that weight, and we just go right back under that weight again. We take that weight and we put it on us for no reason. Galatians chapter 6, Paul tells us to not carry the weight of everybody else, but he tells us to every man bear his own burden. And so we all got burdens to bear, unless you're like a Hercules that gets out of everything. We can't have all honey and no bees. Life just can't be without certain responsibilities. I was talking to a young man today, and we were talking about fatherhood, and we were talking about, being a husband. And he's like, man, sometimes it's just stressful when you put all that together, and it is. And life is stressful, and it's stressful for wives, and it's stressful for moms. It's stressful for all of us at times. That's our burden to bear, and that's what makes us who we are. Okay, and Paul says, listen, we all got to bear our own burden, but he also says in Galatians 6, let every man take on or help carry the load of another. Bear ye one another's burdens, he says. Now, how does that fly? Well, what he tells us to do before that is to consider yourself. If I'm in a healthy position and I'm emotionally healthy and I'm spiritually healthy, physically I'm healthy, I can have the opportunity to help lift a burden of someone else. But it's when I'm not healthy and I dive into those tasks that I can live to regret it. When I don't know how to say no because I'm being burdened down with my own burdens and I take on somebody else's and I put all that weight upon me, it's like Atlas taking that weight back upon him. It's a bad idea. And so, yeah, we have a burden to bear, but we shouldn't be taking on everybody else's burdens if we can't even hardly handle our own. But then when you think about carrying our own burden, Jesus says that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And so, yeah, we all have our row to hoe, if you want to say it that way. And we all have our path that we've got to make clear. And it is work. But Jesus says, look, as you're plowing that field, put me beside you. Put me beside that yoke of oxen and allow me to plow along with you. With Christ, man, we can do all things. And without him, we can do nothing. And man, we're toiling and we're trying. It's like the disciples trying to get the water out of the boat because they were sinking. And without Christ, it wasn't going to happen. And so we need to put Christ beside us as we're going, and then we can bear any of those burdens that come upon us. And so we can take that burden and we can go. I think that naturally, though, even the disciples struggled with this. In John chapter 21, Peter's told by Jesus, this is the burden you're going to have to bear. And it was a huge burden Peter had to bear. Peter was told by Christ in John 21 the way he was going to die and how he was going to die. Could you imagine being told that? I don't want to know. I'll just cross that bridge when I get there. But Peter found out. And like that wasn't enough for him to bear, he looks over at John and says, hey, Jesus, what about him? And Jesus says, what about him? Worry about yourself, Peter, and follow me with the time that you have. And so often, like Peter, we're walking around saying, what about him? Or what about her? And Jesus is just trying to get us to worry about ourselves. We don't need to be taking on the weight of the world. And Christ is there to help us do it. And we don't have to be crying and wondering what's going on and why do I have all this to bear when Jesus says, I've not given you any more than you can handle. My grace is sufficient for you. Trust me. So if you're sitting there and you're like, man, I've got the weight of the world on my shoulders, let it go. Just drop it. Jesus is there to pick up the pieces. Jesus is there to help you carry, to help you plow. Stop feeling like you've got to take these burdens on yourself. But at the same time, don't feel like you are being punished because you have a burden, because we all have our burden to bear. Man, I hope this has been an encouragement to you. If you know someone that's carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders, I would encourage you to send this to them, like and subscribe, because we just love to have you tying into this channel so we can just help you grow in your walk with Jesus.